Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yeah, basically we're just regular dudes drinking irregular beer, talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, their client, MTG Arena.
That is right. And today is a great episode. I love these episodes. They're so fun.
Yeah. So fun.
So this is our first sips of Midnight Hunt, which is Innistrad. So very exciting. Happy to finally have played with the cards and get to talk about them for, well, really the first time. We've talked about the cards last week, but this is really the first time we get to actually...
Yeah, this is when it really counts.
Yeah. We actually know some things, maybe. But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink our own, then drink each other's, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, so this week I brought something called Waterloo Dark. So Waterloo is a brewery out of Waterloo, Ontario, and it claims to be Ontario's first craft brewer on the can, which kind of surprised me. Stuff like that's always hard to prove, but they must have some claim to it in order to put it on the can, so I figured that's kind of cool. I just got their dark, and it doesn't say on the can either what style it is. It just says Waterloo Dark, but I think I remember seeing in the liquor store that it's a Dunkel. In any case, it's a dark lager.
Perfect. That's great.
I figured the dark theme went well with Innistrad, so.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I like what you're doing. I went with a dark beer as well. Probably the most well-known dark beer ever. Guinness. I would think that it's one of the most well-known.
What is that?
Guinness.
I don't think I've ever heard of Guinness.
Yeah, Guinness.
Okay.
Obviously, it's like the Irish beer. It's from Guinness, which was actually established in 1759. So in our chart of like when breweries came about, this one's a nice and old one. So that's
I don't know, man. Stella's still kicking ass.
Stella is really kicking ass, but Guinness is respectable. It's nice.
It's not embarrassing itself.
No, not at all. So Guinness is a drought stout, and it is 4.2%. Surprisingly, because everyone always says how heavy it is, and I'm like, really? I don't think it's heavy at all. But I just thought, maybe it's time to have Guinness on the show. And I don't consider it part of the silver beers.
No, I thought about that too, and I was like, nah, Guinness definitely should be an actual part of the show.
Exactly. It's just different. And we'll talk about it later. I'm very excited. But anyway, I think we should just jump right into things. Like, I don't have anything else to say. I'm just ready to midnight hunt. I don't know.
Let's do it.
All right, Jeff, so, what are your first thoughts? How does the set feel for you after the weekend, essentially?
So for me, the set... So I actually went into this, if you listened last week, you probably know this, with pretty high expectations, because I thought the set looked really awesome. And so far, it's totally delivered on that. I've just been mostly playing limited myself, but I managed to get in a few standard matches here and there and watch some standard streams and stuff. And people are doing some really cool stuff in that too. So I've just honestly been loving both formats.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. I did see some weird stuff on Twitter that people were saying that they hated limited. I was like, really? I'm having a blast.
I'm having so much fun.
Yeah. And that's not just me being overly positive about things. I think it actually is really cool. And we talked a lot about the mechanics last week, but there are so many different connections between the mechanics that I didn't even think about going into it.
Right.
And namely, I think Coven, where I was pretty low. I was like, oh, well.
we weren't exactly the highest. We weren't the Coven believers.
Yeah, we weren't, no. And I don't know if I've completely switched around, but it's been really interesting having creatures that transform and creatures that get disturbed and all of that blending into the Coven and how all of those different cards interact with each other. So it didn't necessarily... Because before it felt like, oh, I'm going to build a Coven deck and it's going to be about Coven and +1/+1 counters and that's it. But really, it's a lot more like, oh, well, this disturbed creature works really well with Coven strategies because it changes power and toughness, and it starts out as 1, and then it becomes 2 or something. I've really liked that a lot.
Yeah, Coven is more fun than I gave it credit for. Like, even without all the crazy shit you're talking about, just like trying to sequence in such a way that you'll play this card and activate Coven as soon as possible makes you make different decisions than you might otherwise normally. And I always think that's really cool. I actually punted a game because of what you were talking about, though. So I had a 1, a 2, and a 3 in terms of power, and I had the candle trap on my opponent's thing. But the one that I had was the 1/4 werewolf. And so I just passed the turn, and my werewolf suddenly transformed, and now I couldn't activate my candle trap to actually exile their creature.
It's a 3/5.
And they had enchantment removal and got rid of it.
No!
It's like, oh my god, that could not have gone worse.
Oh, that's so rough.
I was like, yeah, I'll just activate my candle trap this turn. That will also transform my werewolf. This is going to be great. No reason to do it now. Pass the turn. And then I was like, oh no, I needed to do it on my turn.
Crap. Yeah, there are many times where I have just completely forgot how the main set of the main mechanic of the set works.
Yeah.
The amount of times where I was like, man, okay, I really need to make these these werewolves transform. I'm going to play 2 spells so they get bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait,
Not
no,
how it works.
It's the opposite of that.
Or it's like, maybe I'll just pass the turn and then on my next turn play my Nightbound werewolf. It's like, it was never day, so it didn't become night.
Yeah, and you're like, crap. That's what I wanted to say. At the beginning, I wanted to have a quick segment of Corrections Corner, or Zach fucked it up. Maybe Zach fucked it up. I think that's
we should just add that to the start of the show notes. Just like, did Zach fuck anything up last week?
Did he fuck anything up? Yeah. Hey, remember when I was saying that daybound creatures would not make it day when they enter the battlefield? Well, I was wrong. They do. They super do. Which
I would say we were both wrong on that because I wasn't sure enough of what I was saying.
Yes.
That I let you convince me.
So, and I felt like I knew I felt like that was a weird corner case, but it would make sense. In the end, it just makes more sense that you would, as soon as you establish that day or night matters in the game, it's either one or the other. So that makes a lot more sense. Though I will say, so the animations on Arena are really helpful, right? Because they're just right in the front, and it's like, hey, this thing happened.
Right. I actually really like them too.
Yeah, they look really nice because it's like a mirrored. It's not completely mirrored image, but it's like the same image, but like light or dark.
Right.
But I will have to say there have been a couple times where someone plays a werewolf and then it becomes day. I'm like, great, it's my turn, and I'm like, no, they're about to attack. Crap.
Oh. No.
But I'm like,
that wasn't them passing the turn.
Because I get so used to watching it flip at the upkeeps that I think it's my turn. I'm like, no, we didn't introduce it yet in the game. Okay, got it.
You're playing some long games if it happens more often on upkeep than on a creature ETBing.
I've been playing some long games. I thought it was going to go a lot faster, but I've been having some
I've been beaten down, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
I've either been trying to be the beatdown, or if it goes long, it means it went badly. So spoiler alert, it goes badly a lot of the time. Mainly because I don't know how my cards work and I don't read them.
Yeah, just casting 2 spells for no reason.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to talk about this in this episode or the next one, because we'll probably be talking a lot more about draft next week. But
yeah, so next week's episode will be all about Limited. We can give our initial thoughts here and what's going well so far, because in a whole week it's probably going to change again, because the meta evolves so rapidly, especially at the start.
It will, and I'm very excited to look at what we thought the best commons were going to be, because I have some new thoughts, I think. Maybe I'll save those thoughts.
I have some new thoughts,
okay.
too. Yeah.
I might save those thoughts until next week then, so we can reestablish that. But overall, I mean, it's just so nice to be in Innistrad. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is like the first time since... Maybe I just love Fall Set Limited for some reason, but this is the first time since Zendikar that I've just loved the draft format this much at the start. And went absolutely crazy on day one. I did like 5 drafts on Thursday.
I think I did I had to work that day, so it was. I know
your boss didn't understand.
It was
Hunts out.
It was a rough day because you're messaging me. Oh, look at all my drafts. I'm like, so I've only played 2 games of my sealed, and I want to leave so I can play more. Anyway, But it's been going all right. My sealeds are always better. I think this is the same with every set. And I don't know if it's just because there are players like you that aren't playing sealed and are just jumping straight to draft, so I get to play like pre-release games basically. But they've been going well.
Dude, I'm on. This is probably the best run I've had at the start of a set either. So my first draft was 5-3, and it was okay. I drafted some like kind of junky green black deck, and then my next four drafts I got 7 wins. Then I did another 5, and then back to 7.
That's insane.
Yeah, I got from bronze like nothing, right? Whatever you start at, to I'm mid platinum now. In I don't know, just not as many drafts as that normally takes me. So it's mostly like I'm opening really strong rares and mythics and actually drawing them when I'm playing, which doesn't often happen to me. So it's a nice change of pace.
So through all of those, are there specific like colors or archetypes that you were playing?
I tend to find myself doing really well with white in general.
Oh, okay.
It's like I did well with blue-white and then 2 green-white 7 runs and then a red-white one. It's like all of my 7-win runs actually might have been white decks.
Wow, that's fun news.
Yeah, it's unusual for me too.
Yeah,
is this what drafting white is normally like? You just win all the time?
Yeah. I mean, the last set was okay for it, but before that, obviously not the best. So
Pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe I should stick with certain. I've been trying to move around a little bit, and maybe I should stop doing that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, that Galvany Silversmith, people don't take that card.
I know.
And I take that card.
I think the draft I am just in right now is I have 3 of them.
Oh, man, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. So, but yeah, anyway, so as far as like constructed goes, have you been able to do anything? Do you have any brews that you're working on, or?
Yeah, so obviously immediately I'm trying to make the red-black thing work, but that's kind of tough. I don't know if this is your experience, but everyone is playing Gruul.
Yes.
It's just like at least half of my matches are against Gruul, and honestly probably more than that. And it, that's not too surprising. Like Goldspan Dragon and Asika's Chariot is probably the best 2 cards in the format, and then there's a lot of strong Gruul stuff in the new set, so that's like a natural starting point.
Werewolves. People want to play werewolves.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, I find some people doing almost like the same Gruul deck as before, just with the good red and green cards added to it instead of the adventure creatures. And then some people are doing the tribal werewolf things. Yeah. Both have felt pretty good, actually.
They have. Surprisingly, I didn't think that the tribal werewolf thing would be great, but there have been some games where I'm like, how do I beat this?
Yeah.
There are wolves everywhere, and I can't really do a lot about it.
Like a lot of the werewolf cards are just really good. Like Werewolf Pack Leader, and then the Rangers class is basically a wolf tribal card.
Helps you with other wolf things. So there was a draft I was playing where Tovalar, that's his name, right? Tovalar?
Yeah.
Tovalar's Huntmaster. It's just like the mono green one. That, ETBs as a 6/6, and it makes 2 wolves, and then when it flips over, you can make wolves fight stuff, which is awesome because it's something to do. It's a removal spell without making it daytime. So you can double remove stuff without switching the...
Yeah, I gotta say I slept on that card in reading the spoilers, and I've gotten my ass kicked by it so many times now that I'm like, this might just be a really good card.
Yeah, it feels very good, and because I was looking at it, I was like, oh, it seems okay, and then it flipped over, I was like, oh, that seems fine, but then we were at a board stall, and I could never make it day to do anything because they would consistently just be like, no, fuck you, it's always night, and I can
fight, attack, make 2 more things.
I'm never gonna play a spell ever again. Basically, it's like I don't have to, and it's just like so. Oh my gosh, so hard.
That card's a house.
Yeah. So I did have one draft where I opened 2 of that card.
Oh shit.
So it was like pack 2 and pack 3. I opened Tovalar's Huntmaster. I was like, really? But that deck ended up being terrible somehow, and I don't know.
Bummer.
I had
You're probably like forcing green or something because you
Yeah.
get into this weird spot where it's like green's not really open, but it's still probably worth it because your 2 green rares are so much better than everything else.
Yeah, and I just had like a ton of black removal spells, and I was like,
Honestly, that seems fine. Black removal into Tovolar's Huntmaster,
Yeah,
that'll win.
that's what
you just
I-
got to draw the Huntmaster.
I would always draw it. I would just never draw enough lands.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem too.
Yeah. So, anyway, but that card has been. That was one that was surprising to me because I also slept on it pretty hard.
Yeah. I think my pick for the best deck in the format right now is the Gruul deck that just uses the mana engine, so the Jespera Sentinel Magda combo.
Yeah.
And it's trying to ramp out a turn 3 Asika's Chariot. I think Arlen is kind of its backup Asika's Chariot, something that comes down and makes 2 creatures right away and
Right.
sticks around. And also with Tovolar's Huntmaster at the top end, because you can also ramp into that. Like you can turn 3 Huntmaster off of Magda Sentinel.
Yeah. It does feel
Which is like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
When you get Huntmastered on turn 3 and you're on the draw, you're like, why did I play this game? You didn't need me here for this opponent.
It does seem interesting that like in the last standard, Jespera Sentinel was like good. It is a good card and like it is a good combo. But it felt like there were a bunch of other things going on that were like, this is much better. And like that's just like,
and it got stomped, right? Like you'd be on the play or sorry, the draw. You turn 1 Jespera Sentinel, they untap, stomp it, and then they have a clean like turn 3 play as well.
and so it always felt like it was like, it's not that great. And now it feels like, oh god damn it.
People are going to start to put so especially because I think the next evolution of this deck is to actually cut the other 2 drops that they've been playing and go all in on the mana ramp into the dumb stuff. So I would actually put Lotus Cobras in
Okay.
and have that. Because then, like, when you get turn 3 Asika's Chariot or Arlen on the play, like, yeah, the turn 3 Huntmaster is like the perfect draw, but turn 3 Asika's Chariot is pretty hard to beat too. And I would just maximize my chances of doing that by playing Lotus Cobra.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that's like through removal. If you have like Sentinel and then Magda, through removal, you're getting a turn 3 Asika's Chariot, which is crazy. And it's tough. People are going to have to put the Spike Field Hazards back in. And even that's like I'm saying, they'll still get their turn 3 Chariot, but you got to kill the Magda.
Yeah. Or it just gets out of control and they can just keep.
Or like you're going to have to play Fight with Fire to deal with Jespera Sentinel or something. Or Play with Fire, what's it called?
Play with Fire. That's what I was thinking at first was we're just going to see a lot more Play with Fires just because, hey, Shock is a good card and
it's really good when your opponents are all playing 1/2s.
Yeah, exactly.
And 2/1s. You know, like their whole plan is to go 1/2, 2/1. If you just have 2 Play with Fires, you'll laugh.
You're like, yeah. You're like, haha.
But yeah, that's like I think that deck's a little better than the Werewolf version. I think the Werewolf version is still strong though, because it has some nutty draws as well.
Yeah. I just think it's been fun to see some of. I mean, I agree that I've seen just tons of werewolf stuff for the most part, and it's been pretty fun to just be like, oh, we get to do this for a little bit before it gets kind of edged out, possibly,
Right.
probably.
Yeah, before people just decide that the other version of Gruul is similar but better.
And then maybe you get to play one of your pet card, but it's not that great or something.
Right. Like, yeah, maybe you squeeze some Tovolars into this version because you have incidental wolf stuff, especially if you're playing the Huntmaster.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it shakes out. Now, as I'm talking about these things, I want to talk about more decks, but I don't want to spoil some of our Worthless slots because I have a couple cards that I'm like, I do want to talk about this deck, but I don't want to say some cards that are in it because we'll be probably talking about them later.
That just means we'll be talking about the deck later, right? So.
I mean, that's true. That is true.
But I also don't know what cards you're thinking about nominating, so there are some decks that I want to talk about that I wasn't going to talk about that card. So.
That is very true. I will say every time I look at that card, Old Stick Fingers, I think it says Sticky Fingers.
That's so gross.
Oh, old Sticky Fingers.
I hate it.
It just, I legit during all spoilers, I thought it just said sticky fingers, and I don't know why. It just, I was
Doesn't
like,
say that.
I know, but I was like, why would they make such a gross naming magic card? That's okay. Well, also, why does green cards need to be like old something? Old
Yeah.
growth troll. We got
Right.
old sticky fingers. We got old gnawbone.
Yeah.
What's that about? Are they like in the same family or something?
Yeah.
Is that their first name? Maybe they're not. It's not the same family, but they just have the first name. It's just strange. I'm like, what? What is with this naming stuff?
You know what it is? When they hit on a vein of something that they haven't explored that much in the past, like, you got to imagine eventually you're starting to run out of names, right? Because all of the super obvious ones are taken.
That's true.
So.
Oh, you know what it probably is? Is that so? This is a weird design story that I don't design cards, but I know a little bit about how they do this. And one of the okay, I'm gonna go back a little bit, but you know how Wizards does like their big game designer searches every once in a while?
Yeah, right.
Where they're
There's
like,
been like 3 of them, right?
yeah, they're like, hey, you need to make, basically there's an assignment to like make a card, and then if your card or a couple cards, and then they slowly whittle it down and then give somebody a job essentially. But one of the assignments is that you have to figure out how to make a card of a certain color that's supposed to do something for the draft set, and you have to name it in between 2 letters because they have a specific spot on a sheet that cards are printed out on, and you have to fit that hole. And I wonder if they use this often, where they're like, well, we need something in between N and P kind of, or M and Q, so let's put old something.
And it has to be a green card.
And
or
it fit,
whatever.
and it fits right in, and they're like, boom. And so they keep using the old something.
That's their old green card trick.
Yeah. So Wizards, I'm onto you. I know what you're doing.
So you're what you're saying is for the next great designer search, if I do that, I'll get the job.
I think so. You have to. No, it should be like new something.
Yeah, and the card has to be like really weird or something.
Yeah, new sticky fingers.
New sticky fingers. God.
But no, it's just stick fingers, everyone. Just so you know, I'm sure everyone already thought that. So.
Because his fingers look like sticks. Do you get it now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's sticky. That was one joke. Sorry, this is nothing to do with magic. There was one of those popsicle jokes that my friend used to tell all the time. He's like, "What's brown and sticky?"
Popsicle stick?
A stick, just a stick. Because
Just a stick.
it's brown and it's a stick and it's sticky. I always
The
thought.
fact that you said popsicle made me think that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like that does make more sense. I hated it so much because I was like, it's not funny though, and it's not good. But he laughed at it all the time. Would always make that joke. So maybe the stick. I don't know. Anyway, maybe I'm talking about old sticky fingers too much, but
It reminds me of a joke that we used to tell as kids, that somebody told me, that was just like, what's red and smells like green paint?
red paint.
Red paint. It's like, is that a joke? I don't think that's a joke. It's just the world's worst riddle.
Yeah. It's like, what does smell like that? That seems like the kind of joke where you just like a kid made it up because they're like, oh, wait, paint smells all the same, and
Yeah,
just like
you
somehow,
could see the wheels turning, little
Yeah.
hamsters running.
So, anyway, I did want to talk about the rare land cycle because we haven't been able to talk about this yet.
Yes, the slow lands.
The slow lands, is that the official name now? We're calling them the slow lands.
I mean, it's as official as any of the other ones, I think, at this
Perfect.
point.
All right, I'm fine with that. I think slow lands make sense because.
It's literally the thing everyone thought when they saw them, if you knew the term fast lands.
Yeah. So they're basically the fast lands, but they're slow. So they enter tapped unless you have 2 or more lands.
Right. Whereas the fast land cycle, if you've played Arena, they were in Kaladesh Remastered or whatever, and they come into play tapped. If like it's the exact opposite. So if they're your first 2,
Then
they come into play
exactly.
untapped. Otherwise, they come into play tapped, and these are the opposite.
Yeah. Which we have a very interesting mana base right now in the new standard.
I guess they're not the exact opposite, right? Because they both come into play untapped on turn 3.
That is true. Okay, there is an overlap. But so the mana base in standard right now we have like pathways, and then we have snarls,
Yeah.
and then the creature lands, and now we have the slow lands.
So these are awesome because slow lands are better for like slower, as you might guess, kind of more controlling decks that need access to, like if you have double red spells and double black spells, Haunted Ridge is going to be more valuable to you than the black red pathway, because pathways are pretty bad at casting double spells, whereas these are pretty good at it. But then aggro decks are often going to hate that these come into play tapped on the first 2 turns, and so they'll turn to pathways. So it's like these are for the slower mid-range control decks, and pathways are better in aggro decks.
Yeah. I also think it's fun that the creature lands from AFR are the opposite, so they will come into play untapped at the beginning. So that is pretty cool.
And those are the exact opposite, because they only come into play untapped
for the first 2 turns. Yeah. Also important to note, obviously, these are allied lands, and the snarls are enemy. So think about those kinds of things when you're trying to build decks and brew them.
Yeah.
Hey.
These lands are great, though. They're, like I just said, pathways in them serve a slightly different function. But other than that, these are probably the best lands in Standard right now.
Yes, I definitely agree. Even though I play a lot of aggro decks, but most of them are monocolored, so I don't play these lands, but I still want them for other stuff.
Yeah. And aggro has good, fine mana bases anyways, with the man lands and the pathways, and then maybe a couple of these, but you got to be careful with these in aggro, because you really don't want to mess your whole curve up.
Exactly.
But what's fun is if you draw like one of these and 2 other lands, you're already set, right? Everything comes into play untapped. So,
yeah. Anyway, it's nice to have them, because I was a little worried coming into New Standard, being like, what is the mana base going to be like?
Right, because that's a big part of Standard 2022, is that the mana was so bad.
Yeah. So now this is a great step to know, like, okay, we do have some nice lands. Hey,
these are awesome, and I really hope the cycle gets finished in Crimson Vow. Sometimes they don't do that, and it's like, this is just going to push you towards allied colors, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're so much better than the snarls. Like, the snarls are terrible. So you have all 10 pathways, and then you have these. So allied colors are just much stronger currently, I think. But
I would like them to do enemy colored. No, do I want them to do that? I kind of like when they don't. Okay, yeah. I like it when they don't complete a cycle immediately. Besides the pathways, I think. I like that they did it because it was weird that there were 6 and then 4. But when you go 5 and 5, it doesn't bother me that much.
I don't know. I think these are just the same colors that have been good recently. And it's like, this is just going to push people to play more Gruul unless you give us something else. But
okay.
But you know what? It's probably fine.
Yeah.
But these are great lands, so there's going to be an imbalance until they give us at least something else. Maybe they give us enemy lands of a different cycle.
Of a new kind of cycle.
Crimson Vow.
That's what I was thinking. But like, do they want to have...
Or like reprint the fast lands? That'd be kind of interesting.
Ooh.
The opposites. But
that would be cool. I kind of like that.
I could get behind that, but I think they should give us something so that even if the mana bases are different, I don't like that these ones are just strictly better because like this snarls are so bad.
Yeah, because you just need so many basics for the snarls to do anything, obviously. And then
And the whole point of playing dual lands is to play less basics.
Yeah, and then you kind of just want to hold that one basic in your hand for a long time so you can use it for the other snarls. Anyway.
It gets weird.
It gets weird.
And you always want to hold pathways until the last possible moment. Unless your mana base also has snarls in it, then you kind of have to make the weird early pathway choice so that you can hold the basic in case you draw a snarl.
And then you get screwed, yeah. It's really annoying. So I do like the idea of Crimson Vow having different enemy lands. I don't know if they will do that, but I like the idea of not just completing the cycle and then being like, oh, well, you'll never play the other lands anyway. So
one thing I did want to talk about, though, is I've been trying to make blue-white, speaking of these allied colors, just like a blue-white control deck work, like I was talking about before with the Fortell and the Dragon in blue and even Mordenkainen. And what pushed me to do this was that I had Teferi in a draft, and I just won so easily because Teferi is so much... Like, Teferi is better than I thought he was. When I just read the card, I was thoroughly unimpressed,
Mm-hmm.
and also a little miffed that he doesn't change day to night or night to day. That was kind of the main reason I wrote him off.
Yeah.
But that plus is actually better than it looks. It's a little different in constructed to limited, obviously. Like, obviously, a card like Teferi, I didn't think he was going to be bad in limited.
Mm-hmm.
But he played out smoother than I thought in such a way that I was like, I should try this guy in constructed because, maybe it gets you there. And it's been fun trying to make that deck work. It is hard to beat Gruul because Gruul has the 2 best creature lands, and it has Wrath of God type effects aren't very good right now because they'll have creature lands, they'll have a Sika's Chariot, they'll have like Arlen, and you're just like, oh my god, this like kills their 2 worst things, like their 2 tokens. So Gruul's really tough, and I haven't found a solution to that. But I will say that I was a big sleeper on Teferi, and I think the card is okay. I don't think it's going to dominate standard for the foreseeable future, but I think it could conceivably show up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about him because he's not going to be, spoiler alert, one of my 3 picks for the next section. But
yeah, I was wondering because I knew that you had played with him. So because I haven't really seen him on the field, I don't have a new opinion about him, really. So I'm literally reading him again because I don't remember. So if our listeners don't remember that Teferi who slows the sunset, this is the reason why Jeff was upset that they didn't do anything with the sun and whatever, because his name's literally
slow the sunset.
He doesn't slow the sunset. He doesn't do that. But he's 2 white blue for a 4 mana Teferi Planeswalker. +1, you can choose up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target creature, and up to 1 target land. Untap the chosen permanents you control. Tap them if you don't control them, and you gain 2 life.
Right.
That's a lot of
It just gives you a lot of options.
It does.
Like, it gives you so many options. I remember even in limited once, I was sitting there like, okay, I can untap this thing and use it again, and then I realized, oh wait, I could just tap their only blocker and win. Never mind. Scrap all of, because I was using it mostly to untap my stuff.
Yeah.
And then on that last turn, I was like, oh, I feel like I could probably win somehow, and I'm just missing it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you just tap their blocker. Got it.
Yeah.
You can do that too.
Yeah, that does seem great. I guess it's the classic Zach thing where this card has too many words on it. I don't fucking know.
None of them slow the sunset amount.
What is it? The -2 is like, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them in your hand, and then
it's just
on the bottom. Okay. Great. And then the emblem is you just.
The emblem is like the commander thing.
Yeah, so you get an emblem, you get to untap all permanents during each opponent's untap step, and you can draw a card during there. So you get to take turns on their turns, which makes more sense.
That card that got banned in Commander is.
Prophet Crucifix.
Yes.
But this way you get to draw a card too.
Even better.
Yeah, so it does seem like that is the slow the sunset part. But
I guess.
I mean, I never really look at planes. I've stopped reading the ultimates on Planeswalkers.
They matter so rarely.
Yeah, that I just never read them anymore unless I'm looking at something like, are they about to ultimate? Maybe. Okay, it's okay. But
it's always just it's very rare that you're like, oh, they're about to ultimate. Should I stop it? Let me read it. Mm-hmm. Oh no, I don't need to stop that. That never happens.
No.
If your opponent's about to ultimate on you, you're gonna lose. So.
You're like, can I stop that? No. Should I concede? Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't actually need to read it at this point. My opponent's gonna ultimate a Planeswalker. I'm just gonna concede.
That is true. Perfect. Well, Jeff, are you ready for another beer? I'm just about there.
Yeah, let's go to a beer break.
Oh, perfect. Let's go to a beer break. Get some of that. You got that Guinness sound, thing.
I think that's the first time I've ever opened a Guinness without it overflowing a little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the carbonation thing immediately. Yeah. How does that work? Do you know how that works? The ball, the Guinness ball.
Yeah, it's physics. Oh, did you need a deeper explanation than that?
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
I think I looked it up once, but I don't remember.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with that.
It's just as you turn, I guess the ball will kind of move and it's going to cause waves, right? Because it's going to move.
Okay.
And it's just gonna
So there is
carbonate it.
because there's nothing in the actual ball. It's just like literally just a ball.
Yeah, it's just like a little ping pong ball.
Yeah.
We used to like crack these open and play beer pong with it
With the ball. Yeah.
when we had no other options.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I brought the ping pong balls, but we gotta drink them first. Classic.
Yeah.
Okay, love it.
Playing beer pong with Guinness.
Hey, that sounds great to me. All right, now I got that Waterloo Dark. Just no style. It's just a dark.
Yeah, it's a dunkel.
Yeah, dark lager. Okay, gotcha. Pour the Boar. Love it.
I expect nothing less from Canada's first craft brewery.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's get into.
Or maybe it said Ontario, but
it does say Ontario.
okay.
Jeff, are you ready for our tried and true segment, Worth a Slot?
Worth a slot, where we've never made a mistake ever.
No, every card is always worth a slot. If you're, daring enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Every card could be worth a slot if that's all you got. Is that? All right.
That even rhymes. It just has to be true.
That just has to be true. So, during our first Sips episode of a set, we do like to do our segment Worth a Slot, which is basically saying, hey, these are cards we think that are worth a slot in your deck. We have 3 categories. They're very important and very solid.
Yeah. Well defined.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, obviously, they are basketball terms. Because why not, right?
Yeah. Oh, I thought these were curling. No?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Are these also in curling?
Oh, half court? No,
Yeah, the 3-pointer in curling where you just throw the rock and you break the ice. Anyway, so we have 3 categories. You have your layup, worth a slot, your 3-pointer, and your half court. Kind of going in difficulty of, is it really worth a slot or not? And one's layups are obviously, yeah, we all knew that, kind of. But you got to pick which one you like to talk about. So it's it's great. And then we talk about it later in our happy hour episodes. It's lots of fun. Anyway, let's get into it.
I always love them.
I also love them. Jeff, do you want to start us off? Because I just, I want you to go first. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my layup is more of like me doing a layup. So it's like, it's anything but a sure thing. Okay?
Oh, good. Okay.
So but I actually originally had this. I knew this card was going to be on my list. I didn't know whether to put it as a layup or a 3-pointer. And then when I fleshed out my list, this was the closest thing to a layup that was on it. So here we are. My worth a slot layup is a card called the Meat Hook Massacre.
Oh, buddy. Oh, I knew it.
So this is X black for a legendary enchantment. When it ETBs, each creature gets -X till end of turn. Of course, X is however much mana you chose to pay. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain a life. So this is an enchantment, it's worth noting. And the first thing is sticks around. I think I first kind of read it as a sorcery and just thought, okay, like whatever they had gives me a life, and whatever I had, they lose a life, and I can scale this kind of wrath as I want. But the fact that it's an enchantment makes it super interesting. So this is what the sacrifice decks were missing, was a Blood Artist type effect, where every creature you sack drains the opponent. And this is a 2-mana one that's really hard to get off the battlefield. What makes it really interesting is that the subsequent versions just act as scalable wraths, right? Because it doesn't stack. So a lot of Blood Artist decks love to stack their Blood Artist effects and then just sack everything and win. And this doesn't do that because it's legendary. So the later ones just act like a board wipe. But the fact that it has both of those modes, I think just makes it really awesome.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this card for my list, but it makes a lot of sense that you would obviously like lead off with it, and yeah. So the legendary thing I think is huge in this instance, because the one we had right before this that just rotated out was the Bastion of Remembrance, right? which is like the enchantment that drains. But I like that this one drains. It doesn't drain. That's what I mainly want to say. Is that if it doesn't have the same effect of like, oh, well, if both of our creatures die in combat, you drain for 2. It's like, no, it'll actually, I'll gain 1 and you'll lose 1. And that's how that will work. But I think it's really interesting and it makes combat really complicated.
Yeah.
And subsequent things where you're trying to figure out how it works. It just makes it much more interesting than a lot of other Blood Artist effects, while still doing what you need it to do to fit in the deck. But I do think it's very strong, and it has been the bane of all my decks because obviously I play a lot of stupid little creatures, and it ruins me.
Yeah, so I'm imagining this just maybe this even just makes it into some sort of blue-black control deck as a 1-of kind of thing, or a 2-of. But I'm imagining where this really shines is like the red-black sacrifice decks. That, as you're saying, we've been missing, like our Blood Artist type effect rotated out. And Bastion of Remembrance was how you basically won all of your games previously. And so we needed something like this, and this is just such a really cool version that I'm super excited to try this card out. I haven't done it yet because, it's a mythic rare wild card, so I'm hoping to pick up a few
In a draft.
in a draft or something, or maybe in draft prize packs or something like that, like build up my collection that way. But as soon as I can, I will be playing a red-black version that has 4 of these, and we're gonna see where that takes us.
Yeah. No, this is great. And it's definitely going to be seeing play because it's just another Wrath in the format, but it more interesting than just like Doomscar,
Yeah, and I like that it's scalable. Like sometimes you'll just be in that dream scenario where it only hits your opponent's creatures and yours survive.
I mean, it'll be interesting in that deck because most of your creatures are kind of small in the sacrifice deck.
Yeah, but I mean, it will keep your Immersturm Predator alive, but kill your opponent's Paulo or whatever.
Oh, killing Paulo is actually pretty big. Just doing it for X equal to 1, so 3 mana, sounds really.
I mean, it's going to be X equal to 1 plus the 2 you have to pay for the Paulo, but because they're not going to leave you with this.
That's true. Hopefully, you draw this immediately afterwards. But yeah, I like that one. That's a fun one. It's also
this is just I love this card and I also think it actually is quite strong, and so I don't know if the metagame's going to break its way, but if it does, this could be a big part of the standard format.
Oh, for sure. I have a layup that I feel like is just a regular old layup, probably. I don't know. Who knows? But this is a card that's been pissing me off recently, and I'm not going to play it, but I can see why, and it works really well with another card that I also don't love playing. So, so I picked Ren and 7 for my layup. This
card's amazing.
Yeah, so it's 3 green for a 5-mana Ren Planeswalker. It does a bunch of stuff with lands, which I'm not super interested in all those parts. But it's +1, you can reveal a bunch of cards from your library and put a land into your hand. The rest go in your graveyard. And then for 0,
you put all lands.
Sorry, okay.
That's what's crazy. You could draw 3 cards off that plus.
But you get all lands, yeah. And so then the 0 ability, you get to put any number of lands in your hand onto the battlefield tapped, which is great because you just probably drew a bunch.
But the real
ability is this is really what this card does, is that it's for -3, you create a green treefolk creature token with reach, and then it has this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Okay, so a lot of the time it's a 5/5, but usually it's actually a 4/4 because they ramped out through Jaspera Sentinel and all the Magda stuff, which we were talking about earlier. But the way this card really shines is with Asika's Chariot, which is, it's just the worst. It is a really good Asika's Chariot target to double.
Wait, is that the card that can copy any token?
Yeah. So remember when people would just I'm going to copy my treasure token or my 2/2 wolf or something, and people were like, that's really good. This is so much better than that. It's so much better.
It's just stupid. If your opponent has curved out turn 3 Chariot into turn 4 Ren and 7 against you before, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The Treefolk crews it perfectly, and then it copies the Treefolk when it attacks, like you were saying.
And you're like, oh, great. Even if you can kill the Chariot, you're like, great. Well, I have two big things that are just going to keep getting bigger, and if they have extra lands in their hand, they're just going to dump them on the battlefield, and they're just going to be these huge things I can't fly over. Yeah. And if they want to buy time till they get other win cons, but that really just kind of does it. So for the most part, this just says 5 mana, make a token. But anyway,
Dude, I was playing again a game of draft where I thought the game was unlosable, and my opponent played this card, and pretty soon I realized the game was unwinnable. Yeah. This is just, it was way too hard to beat. I was like, oh, I could get it with flyer. Oh, does that say reach? It says reach.
Yes.
Okay, how do I kill this ever?
Yeah, and it's just so frustrating, especially because it's 5 mana. If it was 4 mana, it would actually be better for me because I could use a Skyclave Apparition to get it.
Right.
But I can't. So it really grinds my gears. You know, but I got to give props to it. It's got to lay up right into standard. You're going to see
and I think this is the perfect one because I think this guy's worth exactly 1 slot. Like maybe you play 2.
Yeah.
Like you don't 4 of max out on this. You just do 1 or 2.
This is like it's what makes Asika's Chariot just significantly better. It would be the card that makes me play Asika's Chariot and really like it. Because then because right now I'm not the biggest fan of it because the tokens aren't big enough. But like, you know, even if you attack once with your Chariot and you're like, it's going to die, I don't care, but I have this huge creature that's going to keep scaling. That's awesome. So, good job. Also, the ultimate's like, you get to return all permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand, and then you have no maximum hand size. So,
not bad.
I guess that's also good to note, but...
That's a thing that you're never going to get to because you're always going to be making Tree Folk whenever possible.
Yeah. Or your opponent will just never be able to stop you from doing it because you have a giant reach blocker that they will never beat. Anyway, so...
yeah. I've played like against Ren and 7 and now both limited and constructed a couple of times, and it's just skyrocketed up my list to like maybe this is just the best card in the set.
It really, yeah. It immediately was like, because Planeswalkers, I don't usually read them.
Yeah,
so just because.
And we learned that about Teferi.
Exactly. Earlier, so man, this one is so annoying. I think the other thing is that it makes a token, and Skyclave Apparition also doesn't kill tokens.
Doesn't hit tokens.
So it's extra horrible. I'm like, fuck. I hate this.
But hey, man, your apparition still hits the chariots. So.
That's true. So too bad I have 1 turn to maybe stop getting 2 of them. There'll just be 1 for a while. Anyway, but that's like the the most layup. What's the easiest layup? I don't know.
Yeah, that's like LeBron doing the layup, you know?
Yeah. But I guess it's a slam dunk. I don't know. It is. We don't need to get into it.
We don't need to show people how little we know about basketball. That's okay.
Yeah. Perfect. But let's go into 3-pointers.
All right. Do you want me to start again?
Yeah.
All right. So this is actually one that it was another sleeper for me. This set is just full of sleepers that a week ago, if you'd asked me these, I'd have a totally different answer. But I saw this card in action over the past couple, like over the weekend, and Autumn Burchett was playing a deck that's completely built around this card, and I wanted to talk about it last segment, and then I was like, no wait, I'm choosing that card for my worth of slots, so I'm just not even going to mention it until now. So this card is Lear, Disciple of the Drowned. 3 blue for a 3/4 legendary human wizard. Spells can't be countered, and each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. Man, Autumn was smoking people with a deck that's just blue-black, full of like random shit, and then this card. And so she was like playing Consider, which when this card is out, Consider, the card you put in the graveyard you also get, and then you get to cast the Consider again, and then the card you put in the graveyard again you also get. So it's like Consider's like a draw 4. She was playing what's the Learn card that's kind of like a counter spell but doesn't actually counter, so you're allowed to play it with this card.
Oh, that return stuff up
Oh, I can't believe I forgot the name of this card because I hate it. Divide by Zero.
Divide by Zero, yeah.
Yeah. But so obviously the weakness of this card is that, or they put spells can't be countered so that you don't just fill your graveyard up with counter spells and counter everything for the rest of the game, right? Because, you might not notice that immediately, but it's not your spells can't be countered, it's spells can't be countered.
Yeah.
But she was playing Divide by Zero, and then the card you go get with Lesson, you get to cast again because it has flashback, and you get to cast the Divide by Zero again because it has flashback, and you get to go learn again. It was like, she was just absolutely annihilating everyone. Now, she did give credit, I think, when she was playing it, she said that Brian Gottlieb actually came up with the deck and posted it on Twitter.
That sounds...
But at first I was like, another janky blue-black deck that people are trying to make work, and then I'll just watch her play this one game, and then let's see. And she won this crazy game where she stabilized at 1 life, and a lot of her spells lost life, so she couldn't cast any of them. But then she managed to divide by 0 something to go get the card that gains you 2 life and gets you a land.
Environmental Sciences.
Yeah, and then cast that twice to go up to 5 life, and then start using the life. It was like, this is the best game I've ever seen. And so... I think this card is actually a lot better than it looks. And she was using Malakir Rebirth to protect it.
Oh, that's good. Which,
which you can use twice.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to kill this thing.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Man.
Yeah, it was one of the coolest things ever because I just saw her deck list quickly. I didn't really notice this card. I don't think I even knew what this card did. I was like, oh, that's just her win condition in her janky blue-black control deck. And then she was always like, oh man, my opponent's just not giving me a time to cast Lear, but if I cast Lear, I win. I was like, how good could Lear possibly be that that's true? And then she finally resolved them, protected it with Malakir Rebirth. And I was like, oh, I see. You have 30 cards in your hands now and you're a control deck. Yeah, it is tough to lose, isn't it? Because it doesn't say you can only cast 1 a turn.
Yeah,
it doesn't say that. You think it might say something like that, but it does not. So I'm pretty high on this card now after watching. Now, obviously, Autumn's amazing, so probably the deck's just okay. But,
yeah, it seems super... I haven't heard about this deck. I talked about this card to some Commander players, and we were figuring out how to play this. And I have a friend who hates counterspells in blue specifically, so he's like, "This is the only blue card or commander I would ever build because spells can't be countered, and that's huge." But being like, "Oh, blue is cool, but counterspells suck," kind of thing. And I was kind of being like, "Well, it's not. Okay." But just working through kind of that, or how to mill somebody in Commander by playing your mill spells twice. But that deck sounds way better than what I was talking about.
And she was playing Professor Onyx, which the +1 means that you basically draw 3 cards because the other 2 go into your graveyard.
Oh man!
And then every spell you cast, and you have access to 30, drains for 2, right? So
that's awesome. That sounds so cool.
It was a great deck. I think she went 5 or 6-0. Because, I was just going to watch one match, and that's not what happened. I watched a bunch while I was doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And I just kept tuning back in, and it was always the same story, that she had Lear, infinite hand, and managed to win the match. She went 6-0 or something while I was watching.
That's sweet. What a cool card. Man, now I would just want that deck and just to play it.
Yeah.
So
I immediately copied it off for stream and put it, I didn't craft it yet, but it's in my
It's sitting
account.
there. And
I was like, I'm gonna want this later.
Because that sounds... You'll have to send me that link, because that sounds so awesome. And it also will be fun for me to try to play it and then lose miserably.
Yeah, and just keep getting my ass kicked and be like, how did Autumn make it look so easy?
How did you do this? But... yeah, she makes a lot of stuff look really good. So, I'm going to stick with the decks that I know how to play, which brings me to my 3-point shot, which is not the most exciting card, but I did want to talk about these cards. And this one is one that I just think helps out this deck that I really want to be something. I play this all the time. I kind of alluded to it before, but Intrepid Adversary is 1 and white for a 3/1 human scout with lifelink, and it's part of the adversary cycle. So each color got a different one of these. They all have a different keyword, And they all have this thing where when they enter the battlefield, you can pay an amount of mana. And for this card, it's 1 and a white, and you can pay it any number of times. So it has multi-kicker, is basically what it is. It has multi-kicker.
Kind of though, because like, if this gets countered, I didn't pay the kicker cost.
That's true. Okay, because it only happens when it enters the battlefield. Does it trigger? Yeah.
And then also, I guess if you like reanimator it somehow, you can pay this kicker cost, which you can't with multi-kicker.
All right. Okay. So it's better than multi-kicker. You're right. That's great. Perfect. And it says, okay, so you can pay 1 and a white any number of times, and for each time you paid that cost, you get to put a Valor counter on Intrepid Adversary, and it just the static ability is creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Valor counter on Intrepid Adversary. So the reason I like this one more than some other stuff is that basically I play mono white a lot, and I like playing mono white. And it's really fun actually right now because almost all the really good mono white cards are play 2 spells in a turn stuff. So there's a lot of decks that are like go wide, play 2 spells. So it's really fun against werewolf things because you're like my entire deck just wants me to play double spell all the time. So have fun in the daytime, I guess. And this is an Anthem effect that we've been needing an Anthem effect for a while, and we had one that was pretty good in what was that card? Paladin class, and that one was good except for the first part of the class was kind of like a meh ability that was just like that was kind of an extra nice thing, like taxing your opponent's spells by a little bit. And this one is just great because at the beginning, if it's in your opening hand, you're like, sweet, I have a 3/1 lifelink for 2 mana. I'm just going to play that. And if you draw it late in the game, either you pay 4 or you pay 6, and all your creatures get +1/+1 or +2/+2. And you're like, this is also awesome. And all the stupid, dinky little 1/1 flyers they've been making the whole game get huge. And hopefully you get to play it before someone meat hook massacres you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess like Paladin class and this both cost 4 mana to give your team an Anthem, and this gives you a 4/2 lifelink, whereas Paladin class tacks on like a kind of random
the extra
line of text.
Like that extra line of text was really helpful when you played Dimir Rogues, and now Dimir Rogues is not a deck in the format, so...
Hey, whoa. Okay, Zendikar Rising still a set. You could play Dimir Rogues if you wanted to.
Sorry, it's not really part of the meta, but like you can. Yes, you can. There are.
It's like tier 4, but
yeah. I mean, they did print a rogue in this set, so that works.
There's Zareth San. You could be doing that whole thing.
That's true. Yeah, it could be more like traditional, like tribal. But anyway, I just think it's nice to have this, especially at the 2-drop slot. Because we lost the 3/1 that you could discard a card to protect it.
Right.
And so
Hallowed something blade.
Hallowed, whatever. I'm really bad
something
with
Hallow Blade.
Yeah, Seasoned Hallow Blade.
Seasoned Hallow Blade.
Yeah.
And I was like, Hallowed Seasoned Blade sounds wrong.
So this is the new 3/1 we get to play with, except for now it has lifelink and is an Anthem if you draw it late.
Yeah. It was a really cool card. And like I said, I think it's awesome that they've kind of reworded multi-kicker to be a little more... Because, man, you used to have to tap out for a multi-kicker card like this and then just be like, Jwari Disruption.
And you're like, fuck, oh, god damn it, yeah.
At least this one's Jwari Disruption proof.
That's true. That's a really good thing that I did not think about with it. But as far as the other ones go, I mean, this was a big thing when all of them came out and people were really excited. Obviously, I was excited for this one because I want to try it out. And I do like it quite a bit because all of them don't feel super bad when you just play them by themselves. But I just like this one. Obviously, it's in colors for a deck that I already play. So I'm happy to have it.
And I did want to take a moment to actually talk about mono white. Like, I've been seeing it on the ladder, and obviously people haven't quite figured out the best build for it, and that's really going to hurt a deck like that. Like, when you find the best build and the metagame stabilizes a bit, because mono white tends to be a bit disruptive, the deck's going to get better. But I think mono white's probably tier 1.
Yeah, I also feel the same way. You do have to obviously watch out with some of the other decks, and The things that are frustrating are the ones I've already talked about, which is the Meat Hook Massacre and those freaking reach things. Because usually you can pick off planeswalkers with your flyers, but now you have a fucking giant. It's like a Elder Gargaroth. You're like, fuck, are you kidding me? There's just another one, but there's more now. Like, fuck. Obviously, the tokens are not the same as Elder Gargaroth, but yeah. So I personally don't build this deck really. I play other people's versions, and right now I'm playing Andrea Mengucci's version of mono
That's
white.
a good choice.
Yeah, which is he's doing the similar thing I was doing in 2022, which is you're playing all the Monk of the Open Hand and the Code Spell Clerics to double spell a bunch of stuff, and then you have Master Flowers on your sideboard, and then that flashback card that's just like 1 white mana, put a +1/+1 counter on something, flashback for white, and it gets Vigilance, and you have flashbacks for 1 white. So you can double spell for 2 mana off of 1 card, which can be super helpful as a top deck later, actually. But it's been fun. I've been...
yeah, I mean, still like 1-drop into Luminarch Aspirant into Palo, still good.
Still good. Still super good. Love it.
Yeah.
But
Luminarch Aspirant's just a hell of a card. So.
It's so strong. And people are ready for it, but it's great. I love it. I'm still on it. I know I was kind of in our previous Worth a Slot stuff. I was kind of off the Guardian of Faith. I'm a little bit back on it. I played it a little bit more. It's pretty good.
Now that stuff's rotated out.
Yeah, I like it. I like it as a sideboard card again. It's really great against control decks, so I enjoy it. Oh, it's really it's good. It's not really great, but it's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. It's a card you put in your deck. But anyway, that was my 3-pointer.
All right. So for my, what are we calling this? Half court? The half quarter?
Let's do it.
I really, I always feel a bit bad about giving the same style of deck too many cards in my choices.
Yeah.
But you know what? This set gave me too much sweet shit with my red-black sacrifice love affair. So we're getting another sacrifice style card.
Okay.
And I also just freaking love this card. And I don't think it's going to be good, but that's why it's a half-court shot. I'm going to take the shot anyways.
All right.
And I think you probably know what it is.
I think I do.
This is Jaren, Corrupted Bishop, 2 and a black for a legendary human cleric, 2/3. When it ETBs, or if another non-token human you control dies, you lose a life and you create a 1/1 white human creature token. Then you can tap 2 mana to give target human lifelink that you control. And then at your end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you can pay 6 to transform him into Ormondal. Those of you that were playing in Shadows over Innistrad will recognize this guy. 6/6 flying, trample lifelink that sacks another creature to draw a card. This is awesome. I love it. I think they gave it just a bit too many restrictions. I really want to see the original design of this card, because this really feels like extra restrictions were kind of like thrown in there, and then it became this other entity. But you know what? The entity it became, while might not be powerful, is freaking awesome. I love the idea of, okay, when something dies, I lose a life, and I get a human. Then I can give humans lifelink to try to control my own life total and have it end up at exactly 13. Like, I can sack stuff to lose life and then try to give stuff lifelink and try to sort of brute force my way to 13 life so that I can transform this. And then I can make use of all those tokens to draw cards with the Ormondal side or whatever. Like, once you get to the Ormondal side, if you can protect it, you probably just win. Because sack a creature, draw a card is like one of the most insane activated abilities I've seen on anything ever.
Yeah.
But I acknowledge that they probably recognized that and they made some like serious, all right, so another non-token human I control, so like it's got to be in a human stack. I think that's the biggest thing, right? That it's a human that has to die in order for this to trigger. Otherwise, it'd be pretty insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really love this card, and I hope it makes it in as like a 1 or 2 of in a sacrifice deck somewhere, some way. Maybe even in historic, where there's more human options to choose from.
Yeah. You know what? It's probably going to make a slot in your sacrifice deck in historic.
Oh, yes, it will definitely be worth a slot in my decks. But if I happen to open one in draft or in a prize pack.
Yeah. Oh, you're not going to
It is a
craft?
mythic.
Yeah, you don't want to craft this one?
I mean, realistically, I probably will craft it, but I shouldn't.
Got it. Yeah, that's it's hard, man. Wild cards, they're
Yeah, I know.
it's. I mean, I've saved up quite a few recently, so I feel okay. But
I think it's a commander card, but I still love it. So.
yes, it definitely seems like that. But hey, maybe you play Brawl, historic Brawl.
There you go.
There you go. Get you in,
And
get
then
your
I would be
toes in
like,
there.
glad I crafted 4.
All right. So my final one, half court shot, coming right at you. As I'm looking at all the cards to make sure I'm picking one. You know what? I think I'm gonna go in a weird direction here.
Okay.
I'm going to. So your card feels a little bit like a commander card, right? So I'm gonna pick another card that might be a card that I'm like, you know what? I could play this either in commander or historic or something. Maybe this where the slot isn't necessarily standard, but I got the pleasure of playing this in a draft, and I really liked it, and might continue something with it. But
Okay.
so Sereth, the Viper's Fang, which is 2
Okay.
green for a 3/4 human warlock. Human, by the way. Really, it looks like
Ooh.
it's actually like some Gorgon, but that's just a snake on her.
We're just building a deck here with our human synergies.
We really
our human
are.
legendary creatures.
Right? So this could be your commander for your historic or your regular brawl decks. It says other tapped creatures you control have death touch, and it says other untapped creatures you control have hexproof. You can pay 1 and tap it to untap target creature or land you control. I think this was super fun, especially with like a bunch of little things that you just everything just attacks in. You play like fight spells and kill things, and everything happens during combat because you're like, everything's got death touch now. Let's go. You know. Also, obviously, this card works really well with the death touch card from Kaldheim. What was that guy's name? With the scale sword of shield.
Yeah. Right. Finn?
Finn the Fang Bearer. Yeah.
Right.
Which was awesome. So that card is like, hey,
combo.
yeah, right. That card's like, hey, let's poison people and kill them, and so every creature that has death touch deals poison damage to your opponent. Well, this gives every attacking
It deals
creature
2, right? Like you only need to hit
exactly
5 times with Finn.
And this is just like, hey, every attacking creature you have, as long as they don't have vigilance, it has death touch, and you're like, boom, boom, combo. I love that. This seems like just super fun, and I love the ability to. Obviously, everything else has hexproof, and you can just untap one of your creatures whenever you want to give it hexproof instead.
Yeah, this card is really cool. I actually have also had it in draft, and by the way, it's an absolute house in draft. Like you were saying, you just attack with everything all the time. You're not that worried about removal spells because you can untap stuff on command. They have to kill this first. Like, this card is great. I love the Finn Sereth combo. Never thought about that before. That sounds
really?
dope.
Yeah.
I wish there was some like redundancy for Finn, because we have semi redundancy for Sereth with the binding the old gods. The 3rd chapter gives all your creatures death touch.
Right.
Whatnot. Like there are other ways to do that, but there is no replacement for Finn. So that sounds like a deck that if you just don't get him, you're out of luck.
So then maybe you go heavy on the Finn. And then, as long as you have 1 Sereth, he's got hexproof. So
True, that's
you
true.
just don't attack with him.
But you still got to draw him.
That's true. That's true. I mean, like, fair enough. Okay. Luckily, hopefully, all the creatures are dead by the time that you get to the end because you keep attacking with them. I also like the idea. So the pay 1, untap a creature or land. So the land part seems pretty fun because I don't know if we have a bunch of these in standard. Oh, no, we do. We have a couple. Okay. But you can make a god land where you put a bunch of auras on one land that tap for extra mana, and then this untaps the one big land that taps for a bunch.
Yeah. It could be like the world's worst Arbor Elf.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really cool card, though. I personally think this card should have Death Touch itself. But
I mean, it does when it attacks. No, it says other. Never mind.
no. Yeah, like, I get not giving this thing hexproof, like, all untapped creatures have hexproof or whatever. And then making it symmetric by saying other tapped creatures have Death Touch.
Mm-hmm.
But you should just tack Death Touch onto this thing, I think.
Yeah.
This thing should have Death Touch. Look at it.
It's a sneaky. There's no Death Touch on it. It's the
Yeah.
one where they won't block it because they think it has Death Touch.
There you go. Yeah. And then it won't trigger Finn, and you're like, fuck.
That is true, and you're like, wait, damn it. But I'm not attacking with Finn because I want to make sure it's indestructible or hexproof. Indestructible.
Yeah.
I think there is definitely a janky brawl deck in there for you.
For sure.
And a really solid.
There is definitely a
tier.
janky brawl deck where this is worth a slot.
Oh, 100%. And historic brawl seems like it would be rough because like I don't know if there's enough cards for that to work. So stick with the 60 card deck for this one, but
For now.
for now, keep your eye out. I like that they're continuing to do some weird Death Touch stuff in black green. Really happy with that. But anyway, those are some of our worthless slots for this set. We'll talk more about them as it starts to get to the new set in our happy hour episode. But Jeff, we also have a couple extra things we'd like to talk about. Maybe specific cards that we think maybe are a little overrated, underrated. I don't know.
Yeah, we wanted to add in a couple of little awards here to give out, or what we'll call them. And so we want to talk about what our predictions are for most overrated and most underrated card in the set. And these are going to be hilarious because we're going to pick something as overrated, and then it's in a few months being like, I can't believe they printed this card. It's way too good.
Yeah. So, as far as overrated things, man, I feel like I put one of them in my worthless slots, and I'm not sure if if I'm gonna be on it later. Do you have one? Just
I have a few options that I was thinking of. All right, I'll just make a snap decision.
Perfect.
And it's not one you're gonna like, I don't think. But
Oh no.
all right, so I think my choice, and I'm choosing this also with the full knowledge that I could look like a total idiot. But my choice for most overrated card from this set is going to be Sigardian Savior.
Okay.
So this is 3 white for a 3/3 flying angel. When it ETBs, if you cast it, return up to 2 target creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I've just been seeing this card get a lot of hype, and I don't really get it. People are talking about mono white, obviously, which is a deck you love, and I just don't think mono white is interested in a 5-drop. I don't think that's true. And the cards it brings back, people are even talking about combining it with Intrepid Adversary.
Mm-hmm.
And then paying to get I'm like, how much mana do you have in your mono white deck? Do you know how badly you've lost by the time that you have 9 mana in your mono white deck? Like, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I think it's too expensive. It wants this weird thing where it's a 5-drop, but only a 3/3. And it wants you to play a lot of 2 and 1 drops. That I see where they were going, but I just don't think... I think Standard's moved past this.
Yeah.
This is like late game reach for a mono white aggro deck, and they have better things to do, and the other decks are doing stuff that's so powerful at this point that I don't think this is impactful enough.
Yeah, I just want to say that I also didn't really look at this card because it does cost 5 mana, so I just moved past it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are rating this super high.
Yeah, so I think I'm on board with you that this is like very overrated, specifically in that deck. Maybe if there's some weird combo things, I don't know. I'm not. Really
Yeah,
thinking
maybe
the
it's a
world of
combo
that.
card or something.
'Cause,
It's
like-
hard for me to imagine this card being good because you got to play a lot of 1 and 2 drops.
Yeah. that have
And then 5-drops. Those decks don't often go. There are
hand in
few
hand.
decks that have a lot of 1 and 2 drops and want to play 5-drops.
Yeah.
Like, why would you play this when you can just attack them with Faceless Haven?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Or do any of the other things that you want to do, or literally just play Intrepid Adversary with
For a lot of mana.
like it just works better. Like in your opening hand, you have a 5-drop. You're like, well, okay. I'm hoping my creatures die so I can bring them back. Is that what you're hoping for? Yeah, I don't know.
I never thought this card was good, but people went crazy for it, and I'm like, I think you're going to be wrong. That nobody's going to play this.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree on that front. So I have been seeing this. I don't know if this is the most overrated card, but like,
I mean, if you think it's terrible and people are rating it
no,
like medium, that's still overrated, right?
I think that I don't know. It's probably, it does seem great, but I also don't love it. And I think they're, so this is another one of the adversaries that I just like, this is one that I see why it's really good, but also don't like it very much. And it's the green one, actually. Primal
I knew
Adversary.
it was the green one as soon as you said that. Yeah.
So it's 2 and a green for a 4/3 wolf with trample, and when it enters the battlefield, you can pay 1 and a green any number of times, and it gets a +1/+1 counter each time you do that. You also get to make target land you control a 3/3 wolf with haste. They're still lands. Now, I already don't like effects that turn my lands into creatures most of the time. Probably Nissa,
like
who
who shakes the world was the fucking worst.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, the card was really good, and the things that it did was, obviously it was really frustrating. But that also doubled your mana, so that if you lost your lands, it wasn't that big a deal. This does not do that. Like if you start losing your lands in like mono green or whatever decks you're playing this in, it will actually be a problem. And I just...
I'm with you, though. Like, I think people are really high on this card, and I don't really see it because the green decks already have such good ways to spend their mana. So everyone's saying, oh, yeah, it's a 4/3 trample for 3. Or if you want something better than that, it does that. And I'm like, but 4/3 trample for 3 is so below curve in the green decks that this would go in. And like you're suggesting that it's pretty good, and I'm like, in those decks they have so much better stuff to do with the
you just
3 mana.
On turn 3, you want to play Old Growth Troll. That's
right.
a 4/4
for Reckless Stormseeker.
Yeah,
it's like if you're in Gruul or whatever.
It's just,
and those decks already have such good ways to use their mana. I don't think they need this.
Yeah, and the real kicker for me is that this doesn't say 5 mana you get a 4/3 and a 3/3 with haste. It says no, you get a 4/3.
6 mana.
Yeah, no, but for 5 mana you get a 4/3 with trample and a tapped 3/3 with haste.
Right.
Which is just like.
But it's 6 mana to get the 4/3 and the 3/3 that attacks. Right, like.
What?
So on 6 mana, you can play this, turn your now untapped land into a 3/3.
Yes.
And like get that out of it. But people might read this at first glance and think it costs 5 mana to do that, but it really
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah. It costs 6 for it to actually attack that turn, or it costs 5 to make a tap.
And it scales the whole way up, right? Like it's 9 to attack with 2 3/3s.
Exactly. So
not 8 or 7
or whatever. Yeah. So it's just like, I don't like it as, like, I think this was the one that was spoiled last, and everyone was like, oh, well, the green one's going to be the best one or whatever, and it came out and everyone's like, oh, here we go. And I was just like, really though? But I don't like it that much.
I think it's fine. It's a fine card, and I just don't think it's going to see as much play as people think because the decks that would want it have better options, I think.
I agree. But, yep. Underrated card. Do you have one?
I do, and maybe I'm just like not seeing people talk about this card, but I think this card's actually just gonna be kind of everywhere, or like at least show up a lot, and it's Curse of Silence. This is 1 white for an enchantment or a curse. Enchants player. ETB, choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name cost 2 more to cast. And whenever they cast a spell with that name, you may sacrifice Curse of Silence and draw a card. This is just like a crazy card to have in your sideboard in for example, a white aggro deck. Like, you could just say, all right, you're not allowed to cast the only Wrath of God that I know you're able to play. Like, this card is kind of giving white decks a Thoughtseize effect.
If you have knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to play. It's not just something you throw in your best of one ladder deck, right? You're never putting it in that.
No.
But this is like such a good sideboard card for white aggressive decks. And it's such a cool way to give white Thoughtseize, basically. That, like, if you couple this with Paulo too, obviously, then you know their hand and whatever. I think this card is something a lot of people are just brushing over, but is actually really strong and really important.
For that stuff, I think that is like the aggressive deck is interesting. I wasn't necessarily thinking of it in that. I do like the design in the card, but I wasn't thinking of it as a sideboard piece in that deck, because the reason I like Paolo is because it's a creature, not because it's a hard to get rid of. But
I mean, you could play this in control decks too. I think this is just a good white sideboard card.
For sure.
Now you can play
Absolutely.
blue-white control and kind of have a Thoughtseize effect too.
That's true. But I mean, like, it just makes their card cost more, but like, at least you.
Then it replaces itself when they eventually cast it.
But also, if you want to, though,
If you want that, yeah.
you don't even have to lose it. If you have knowledge
Right.
and you're like, oh, they have another one.
If you know there's another one, you just
can
don't cash it in.
I like that. I think it's good.
Yeah. I think people are writing this off as like a trash rare, and it's actually going to show up in white sideboards.
Oh.
And I think definitely in historic.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a trash rare. I think, well, if you're drafting, it's really annoying. But like, besides that,
it's not good in draft.
yeah. But like, but for sure, like, I could see it. I think I'm probably not as. I can see it though. It's just,
I wouldn't be surprised if this shows up at Worlds. Now, there's a caveat, because like at Worlds, it's a smaller metagame and people are way better. And I think they might even have deck lists. So it's like a card that, of course, like is going to be better at Worlds than it is going to be normally.
yeah.
But that's kind of my prediction, is people are writing off this card, and it's going to be important at Worlds. Those players will have it in their sideboard if they're playing white decks.
Sweet. I like that. I think it's good. Actually, my underrated card, I'm surprised, but I think I want to play more of this card. I don't know if it's super underrated, but I haven't really seen a ton of people talk about it. But it's literally right next to Curse of Silence, which was what got me into it. But Brutal Cathar, the 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier werewolf, and when it enters the battlefield or transforms back into Brutal Cathar, you can exile target creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Of course, it has day bound because it's a werewolf. Flips over to a 3/3 with first strike and ward, pay 3 life.
Yeah, that's tough. Like, the ward is especially interesting because if it transforms, it's hard to get your thing back.
Yeah, and it gets another thing. I also like it because obviously I play a lot of Skyclave Apparition, so this is different than that and gets different things.
Right.
But the sequence of that deck either playing two, because you want to double spell a lot because that's what a lot of your cards do, but then you also have many turns where you don't have anything to play and it just happens to turn into night just because you can't. And you will flip this often enough just because, like, oh, sorry, I just drew a land because I don't have any other cards in my hand or in my graveyard to
It's
play.
just like activate Faceless Haven, attack.
Yeah, and then you just
That's
get your
your
attack
turn.
step, and then it flips over, and then if they double spell to try to kill your stuff, it flips back over, exiles another thing, or at least takes some damage, or it takes makes them lose a
And
life.
you might even just do the Faceless Haven play to save up 2 spells to flip this.
a
Because
couple
like
times.
when it turns into the werewolf, it doesn't exile something, but when it turns back, it
when
will.
yes,
So you-
exactly.
yeah,
So
it's going to be some interesting play patterns.
it seems really interesting and gives you some more stuff to do.
and
And
hey, a 3/3 first striker.
that's what I was about to say. 3/3 first striker is pretty good.
Yeah, anyone who played against Goblin Chain Whirler knows that's better than it looks.
Yeah. So this seems sneaky good. Like, it's going to be really irritating soon.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason people might not be talking about it is because they're maybe assuming Skyclave Apparition is better and fills a similar space.
It does, but the more I look at it, the more I'm like, the things I'm really frustrated about Skyclave Apparition is like this deals with some of this stuff.
I think probably you're going to end up with a split, maybe 3 Skyclave, 2 of these or something.
Yeah, because that seems pretty good. Obviously, you can't get a chariot, but you can get all the tokens.
You can get a chariot if they, for some reason, crew in response
on your turn. Yeah. Or at the beginning of their turn as you flip it or something.
Yeah, it would have to be a really weird
decision
by your opponent.
The
one of those misclick moments.
Yeah, the triggers on the stack. They crew their
chariot. They're like, oops. That's an oops moment.
That's an oops moment for sure. But yeah, anyway, I think it could do some work.
That's a good pick because I think this card is awesome, and I'm also not seeing a ton of people talk about it. So.
Yeah, I might try it out. I think I'm going to be the one that talks about it. How about that?
Yeah. And I'll be like, Curse of Silence, Brutal Cathar. Got him.
I'm like, no. Oh, man. All right, Jeff. Well, I think I'm ready for last call. I mean, like, it's,
me too.
It's getting there. So let's grab that last beer. 3, 2, 1. Bow, 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 bow. I knew it. Of course, we picked Guinness.
Yeah.
Of course. How could you not? That's the sound I want to make. The weird Guinness sound.
I feel like the super giant cans don't overflow as much as the regular ones.
Yeah, because mine is overflowing.
2 successful ones for me.
Oh, that's great for you. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But in either case,
are you so happy for me?
I'm really happy for you. I mean, like the overflowing doesn't bother me that much.
Mm-hmm.
This was no surprise. I knew this coming into this. I was going to pick Guinness because, I'm going to talk about it in a bit. But before we talk about it, maybe we should explain our rating system for those that have never listened to the show before.
Sure.
All of our new friends. On the Arena Regulars, we rate beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. Look at that.
That's right.
Who could have thunk? But basically, this has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently, or trying to get in, or have been in, or any of that. It's just a fun way to rate beers, so don't feel bad about that. However, bronze beers are trash, and they need to be thrown away and out of my mouth and away from me because they are so bad I cannot finish them.
That's right. So if you're a bronze player, we're not saying you need to get out of... Never mind. Silver. Silver is macro brews, or basically nothing going on.
A gold beer is fine, but you won't really probably drink it again.
Platinum is solid, and you will drink it again.
Diamond is exceptional, and you would recommend it to some of your friends.
And Mythic is best of the best. You would recommend these not only to your friends, but to anyone who will listen.
Yep. So I'm at a crossroads here with this beer I brought. Guinness, I love you so. I really do. So many nights in Irish bars, football Sundays. I've had a lot of good times with you, Guinness. Obviously, everyone knows what this beer kind of tastes like for the most part. You've had one before. I just want to get on my soapbox a little bit and talk about Guinness because I haven't been able to this whole podcast.
That's right.
I do think that Guinness has its own... It does say that it's a stout, obviously, but it is much different than any other stout you'll really find.
Definitely. It's
not super heavy. It's very... I think it's easy to drink. It goes back really quickly. It's very refreshing. And it's not fucking 10%. It's going to knock you on your ass. You can drink these and you'll be chilling.
It does kind of have that like frothiness of a stout, though. It definitely has that going on.
It's got a good foamy head that gets stuck in your mustache. Makes it look like you're really drinking a beer, you know?
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Let everyone know.
Great for pictures. I love it. I do want to say one thing. So Guinness does this thing where they tell everyone you have to pour their beer twice to get a perfect Guinness pour. So if you go to a bar and you order a Guinness, this will happen to you every time because it's they use nitro for it, so it's on a different tap, and so it has a different gas and all that kind of stuff. And the tap will have like a little plastic black thing on it and all that stuff. And people will pour it directly. They'll just usually just stick the glass right under it, flip the switch on, and then halfway through they'll switch it off, let it settle, and do it again.
Okay, so that's what you mean by pour it twice.
Yeah, that's but it's called the Guinness 2 pour. It's like bar etiquette. You're supposed to do that. That's what Guinness tells you to do. That's how they say. Otherwise, it doesn't.
That's how they'd like you to serve their beer.
It doesn't sit properly. I call bullshit on that. I don't think it's necessary. You can pour a Guinness upside down into the glass and it'll be all cloudy. And give it a second, it'll all be perfect every time. Like
even this one I just poured, like it came out super cloudy, obviously, and then settled to the half an inch head or whatever at the top.
It's like perfect every time. Like you never get too much head. I don't know what it is. I don't know how they do that, but like it just feels like you don't have to do the 2-step pouring process or whatever. It's unnecessary, but people still do it. Really, what it is, it's a commercial for the beer. While you're waiting to get the bartender's attention, you're watching them pour a beer twice, and you're like, that does sound kind of good. Because they spend twice as much time on that beer than every other beer. So you're like, that one looks like it's important. I'm going to order that. Which is
beer's
perfect.
So nice, they had to pour it twice.
Exactly. So it's like perfect marketing. I don't think that it does anything besides sell more Guinness, which is exactly what they want. So that's great. And I will pour that. If I work in a bar that has Guinness, I will do that for them because I love their beer enough. I would want everyone to drink it.
But not if you're pouring one for yourself, right?
No, if I'm pouring, I'm not going to waste time before I can get a Guinness in my mouth, right? Like, I'm just going to dump it. It's fine.
Yeah, interesting. When you said it wasn't a stout, it's like, yeah, it's right. Like, it's marketed as a stout, but it's not. And it's on nitro and stuff, and that gives it that stouty, like, frothiness and stuff.
It makes it like
It isn't really a stout, is it?
I mean, it is. I think it is technically a stout, but it doesn't have the same thick qualities that other ones do.
It's not like what we've come to interpret a stout as in North America.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
they have precedence because it's 1759 or whatever you said, but
that's why when people are like, "Oh, I don't like stouts," I was like, "Well, but Guinness is Guinness though. It's its own thing. It's its own category. Like there are other styles that try to be like Guinness and things like that, but it does feel like it is its own thing. It has like creaminess because of the nitro. And other stouts will be like, it's a milk stout to make it creamy. But it's like, yeah, but it's also thick and heavy like milk, which is great and delicious, but it's different.
yeah.
So
I'm curious about these people who have tried all these stouts but have never tried Guinness that you're explaining this to me.
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe I also talk to like, I try to get lager drinkers to start drinking Guinness because like it's a gateway into some other stuff, and they're like, I can't drink more than one, it's too much. I'm like, really? I can drink these all night, and they're just, it's just like a nice nuttiness, but it feels like you could chug it really easily, and it would be an easy chugging beer to me because
it's funny because what they're saying is true of most stouts, that I can't have more than one or two of these, like, oatmeal stouts or something or whatever.
Yeah.
But Guinness doesn't really feel like a stout to me, and I could definitely have met multiple Guinness.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, I will step off of my soapbox. But how do you feel about Guinness? What is your reaction?
I don't know if you're gonna like my rating, but
I was prepared for this. You can do whatever you want.
I'm gonna give it platinum. For
Okay.
me, it just hits that mark of this is pretty good, and I'll drink it again. And that's what Guinness is to me. I like it, obviously, or I wouldn't be giving it platinum. But yeah, and like it's solid, and I will drink it again. And I have, that's been true for years for me. Like I'm never, I don't want a Guinness, I'm gonna stay away. So I do keep coming back, but I don't seek it out necessarily.
Yeah. I love Guinness a lot. And I drink it often, especially when I'm at a bar, because I like it. It's best when it's on draft, but the cans are good. The bottles are, don't ever drink Guinness out of a bottle. It's not worth it.
I would be curious to try it like in Ireland. I've heard people that say that it's much better there because it's fresh.
Yes, and I also want to do that, and that's whenever my fiance is always like, "We should go to Ireland." I'm like, the only thing I want to do is go to the Guinness brewery. That's the only thing. Everything else, cliffs and stuff, sure, that'll be fun. But like,
I guess I'll go with you for that. But I'll have my backpack full of Guinness.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it's gonna be. Though ultimately, looking at our criteria, it is kind of on the Diamond Mythic edge.
Okay.
Just because I don't.
You don't want to be the crazy guy trying to recommend to people at the store to get Guinness?
I don't recommend Guinness very often to people because I expect them to already know what it is. And so I'm not going to, hey, let me show you this cool one. Let me just trust me on this one. I don't know if you've heard of it, but Guinness, you should try it.
Yeah, I should give it a go.
So I think I will stick with Mythic actually just because this whole soapbox has got me into talking about how much I love it.
Pumped you up about Guinness.
And I came into this being like, I'm probably going to say Diamond because I'll just try to get my friends to drink it. But it's definitely one that like I come back to often. I don't drink constantly, but it tastes great every time. I'm always happy to have one. And when we get a 4-pack, I drink all 4 that night because it's too hard to just keep them in the fridge.
All right. So platinum, or Mythic for you.
Yes.
And Diamond for me. But that's tentative. That's with an asterisk.
Did you go up to Diamond? You said platinum earlier. I'm fine. Sure, go to...
No, I meant platinum. Did I just say Diamond?
Yeah, you just said Diamond.
Too many Guinness. So Mythic for you, platinum for me.
There we go.
But it's with, what I wanted to say is it's with the asterisk that after the Arena Regulars trip to Dublin, I might increase it.
Ooh, that should be fun. Oh, I'd be down for that. Absolutely. Oh, man. I mean, Catherine would be pretty
It's just
upset.
like yours and Catherine's trip, and I'm just there.
No, I was thinking that we would go instead, and Catherine would stay.
Oh, yeah, she'd be really pissed, yeah. She'd be rightfully upset about that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Okay, but now that
I was thinking you guys just go, and I'll just be at the brewery the whole time.
You'll be back.
You guys are doing your hikes or whatever.
Yeah.
Anytime you show up to the brewery, I'm there.
You're just there at the bar. You're just sending me pictures of you drinking more Guinness. I'm like, why am I not there right now? Yeah, I have heard actually. This is one thing. When Conan O'Brien went to the Guinness brewery, not distillery, they said that when you drink your first sip of Guinness, I should have made us do this at the beginning, but I forgot about it until this moment. But you're supposed to look off into the sunset.
Where were you, Conan? You needed to remind us.
Mm-hmm. But like you hold it up to your mouth and you gaze off.
Ooh,
and then that's your first sip.
When this becomes a video podcast, we'll have to do stuff like that.
It'll make a lot more sense when we do that. Anyway, I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna step down off of my soapbox. By the way, we are not sponsored by Guinness.
Not yet, no.
Not yet. But please tweet at them because I would love that. Although doing Guinness and Harp every week would be kind of boring after a while. But Jeff, let's talk about Waterloo Dark. Are you ready for it?
Yeah. I thought this was okay. I
agree.
It's so I usually do actually recommend darker lagers to people because it is a good way to kind of enter the craft beer world because you're used to kind of the lager flavor, and then darker lagers tend to be just bittered with stuff you're already used to, like chocolate or coffee or whatever. And so it lets you kind of break off the macro brew chain, have something that's interesting and maybe pretty good, and it won't be too assaulting on your senses because it's using stuff that you've already kind of developed the taste for. Dunkels, to be fair, don't usually hit that same standard. They're just kind of like Germans making darker versions of the other beers that they make, so maybe not the best example of that, but I thought this beer in particular was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just kind of off for me. It felt well made enough. Like it had that crisp lager taste that you would hope for, and there was nothing offensive about it. But I don't know. I just didn't love it.
I've had this one before, and of their brewery stuff, I like this one the most. And it was actually fun to drink it next to Guinness because obviously these are both really dark beers for the Midnight Hunt. But it's fun because they also are.
Funny how that worked out.
But they're also fairly like light tasting. Like it has more of like a coffee consistency as far as like the actual how viscous it is. So I think I enjoyed it a little bit more, being like, oh, okay. Right after my Guinness is like, this is better than I remember. But I always put this as at gold in my mind. So maybe I'm just thinking high gold now. But I've had some Waterloo beers that were bronze. So that's why I'm always hesitant.
I see.
With this brewery.
I don't think I've ever, or if I've tried Waterloo, it's been years and years and years. So this is kind of my first experience. And I tried this and I think I took one sip and it just like, my brain was like, that's a gold beer.
Yeah, that's a gold.
You know, there's nothing wrong with this, but I will probably not buy this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I understand, okay, it's well made enough. It tastes like the lager and it just like the flavors aren't wowing me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's fine.
And then when I got to the end of the beer, my mind had not changed. So
yeah, there you go. Having it sandwiched in between Guinness, I probably still had Guinness on my mouth and in my cup, so it just tries to raise everything up, but it did not crack platinum. It's still just a gold. It's still.
Yeah, I think that's just the right place to put that beer. Is gold.
Yeah, and I think still in my mind, it's if I'm gonna drink something from Waterloo, it's gonna be this one. I've had ones. Maybe we should have some bronze beer sometimes because there are ones where
sounds like you're recommending something. So.
It just being like, I'm hesitant at some of their stuff now after a couple times. I'm like, I don't know about this. So happy that this is at least gold. So there you go. That's what I have to say about that. Sorry, I don't want to trash Waterloo too much. I don't know much about it at all. But
that's Ontario's oldest brewery, man.
That's true.
You're really gonna.
Oh, just not oldest brewery, just Ontario's first craft brewery. So
right.
Yeah.
They should maybe update their recipes. I don't know.
Maybe. But I mean, their recipes can't be that old because.
Yeah, the craft beer revolution in Ontario is fairly recent.
Yeah, if they were really old, they'd be really good. If they're still around,
that's what we're learning.
Yeah, the older the beer, usually they like. Yeah, there's a reason why you're still here because you're awesome. Anyway, Jeff, I think it's closing time.
Closing time.
Yep, we've rated the beers, we've drank the beers, we're drinking the beers. It's time to go home.
Now it's time for the call to action, right?
Call to action. Hey, can you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Arena Regulars? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we know you won't, but we'd love it if you did.
Yeah.
Also, you can find us on Arena under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. Maybe we'll be drafting against you sometime soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, probably because I'm going to run out of gold and gems soon because I've been drafting.
I've just built up so many that...
Yeah, it's just going to be me. So if you're playing that account, it's going to be me. And you won't be surprised when I screw up the day or night thing again because I'm going to do that all the time now. If you want to talk to me personally about how day and night works, or also just, I don't know. Just
the resident expert.
Yeah, what time it is, I guess. You can find me at Zulberg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can I find you?
You can find me at BluesBrewsMTG on Twitter. It's spelled like it sounds. Please do not ask me what time of day it is. I'm not so good at Twitter that I will respond in a timely enough manner for you to get the information you need.
Yeah, you will find out a week later what time it is at that point. Anyway, we'd also really like it if you like the podcast and you enjoy us every week or whenever you listen, just give us a review on iTunes. It's nice, makes us feel good. Also, it helps the podcast, and we just want to keep doing this. So if you like it, try to keep it going. Follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, all the places you're listening to us right now. Check us out on everything. Just come find us.
All of the things.
All of the things. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that Teferi who slows the sunset does not, in fact, slow the sunset.
Good night. All right, that's fine.